Hello, everyone. This is Truby Chiaviello again with Magazine, and today's date is October 26th. Today's Sunday, and I'm coming to you from Washington, D.C. I appreciate you tuning in. Please like this video and please subscribe to our channel, Primo's channel, so we can have more content like this coming to your way in the future. And, the big news still is New York. We're still going to talk about the New York's race for mayor. Between the front runners, Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, former governor of New York. He's in second place right now, according to the polls. And Curtis Sliwa, he's our man. And it's early voting, and we still want you to go out and vote for Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa for the mayor of New York. But anyway, the big news is what happened over the weekend, the Sid Rosenberg show on WABC. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo, he's on this radio program, and they start talking about 9/11 and whether or not Zohran Mamdani, how he would react if there was another 9/11 for, God forbid it. But they, made the claim, stupid as always, that because Mamdani is a Muslim, that somehow or another he would cheer on. They even made that insinuation, I think, about 9/11. I did not hear the program. I read the transcripts of it, what people told me, and I heard a little bit just in the background of it. But if it's anything like I'm being told, it's just awful. That's not the way to go, folks. I said this before. I'm not a fan of Mamdani by any stretch of the imagination, but I've said this from the beginning. Hey, look, attack Zohran Mamdani on his socialism, on his policies. They're awful for New York, but don't attack him for his religion. It's a bad idea. It's not right. It's wrong on every facet of it. And, look, folks, you got about, 500,000, maybe 700,000 Muslims living in New York City. The last thing you want to do is turn them off on an election, for goodness sake. And it's just unfair, and it's just wrong on all faces of it. Criticize, debate based on policy, but not on race or religion or anything like that. That's just not the way to go. So, Mamdani, he doesn't like what was said, understandably so. But, he took it too far. He goes out there and he basically says, he starts bringing up Islamophobia. And that's the whole thing of his of the critique, not because of his ideas, not because he's a communist socialist. Oh no, it's because they don't like him because he's Muslim, and he brings up some sort of situation with his aunt. Apparently, his aunt was taking the subway after 9/11, and she felt so fearful because of the Islamic backlash and Islamic phobia that apparently was apparent there at that time. She didn't want to wear her hijab, the religious head covering of Muslims. Well, I don't know his aunt, and I don't know him, so I don't know whether or not this is actually true and whether or not she really felt this way. But just based upon my own personal experience, alive and well, New York City and here in Washington, D.C., all up and down the East Coast over the time, I have a tough time believing this. I'm believing this story. Now, let me say this at the outset. His reaction also when he brings up this recollection, he starts, crying. He starts crying about it. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting tired of politicians, particularly male politicians, tearing up about things. It became in vogue when Bill Clinton became president. It's just never stopped. I don't begrudge anybody for tearing up if it's something serious. If it was like a eulogy or something like that, or you visited a terrible occurrence. But something like this, I don't think is worthy of crying about. And they do this all the time to get the emotion of people. I don't know. I'm just getting tired of it myself. But this is one thing I find refreshing about Trump, by the way. He just doesn't cry about anything. So, take it for what it is. But in this case with Mamdani, I just think the tears are tears of a crocodile, really. I just don't buy it. But let me just go and say something about this, what I think is really important. The news media and a lot of people are trying to make it seem that after 9/11, this country was just unwelcoming to Muslims, and that is not the case. That is not the case at all, and it's just a misread and the wrong tale of history. Anything but that occurred. After 9/11, folks, after this terrible terrorist incident, I was here, and it was awful what happened, the worst terrorist attack in history, absolutely incredible. An hour or so after this occurred, the mayor, Rudy Giuliani, rightly stepped forward and says, do not take your anger out on our Muslim citizens. Don't blame them for this. That's what he said, something to that effect. But he stepped out and he made sure that none of the Muslims in New York City would be harassed or hurt because of what had happened at the World Trade Center. And that was the theme after that. A few days after 9/11, President Bush, and to his credit, here in Washington, D.C., visited the large mosque, one of the oldest in the country, right there in Massachusetts Avenue. The mosque, by the way, was designed by an Italian. And he visited there, and he took a tour of the religious house of worship. The imam had led him throughout the whole area, and it was just a sign that we are going to stand in unity and solidarity with Muslim Americans and anyone who visits the United States who's Muslim. We're not going to blame anybody for this event. There was no, it wasn't like it was in World War II. There was no internment of Japanese and Italians back then. There was nothing like that. Americans went out of their way to ensure that Muslim Americans would not be mistreated. The media searched high and low for incidents where there would have been maybe some Islamophobia or something like that, but none of that had occurred. None. And the idea that somehow the United States was angry towards Muslims or mistreated Muslims is not true, especially in New York City. Mamdani's aunt, I don't see how she could be in any way concerned over her safety in New York City post-2000. Impossible. Women wearing hijabs and burqas was commonplace all throughout New York. Back in the 80s, when I was working there, and I lived there in that area, I saw women wearing hijabs and burqas. You go back to 1965 in this country, they changed the immigration laws to allow more people from Asia and Africa to come to the United States. And that's just the way it's been. In the 80s, they reformed the immigration bill again to even allow more Muslims from Asia and Africa and elsewhere to come to the United States. It was a move away from the Eurocentric immigration phenomenon and to embrace other cultures. Part of this had to do with geopolitics, the Cold War. They wanted to open up the country to other people that were facing third world countries, especially. But we were also doing more business with Islamic countries because of the oil, of course, and other things. And then in 1992, I think it was 1991, President Bush at the time, President George H.W. Bush, he allowed more Muslims. I think he increased it by fivefold or something like that, just based upon my quick research on this issue. And my point is that you just saw more Muslims coming to the United States, becoming citizens, living here, contributing. I just don't believe that people would look at somebody, so many, by the way, taking the subway, wearing a hijab or wearing some other traditional headgear. It's just not. I just don't think it's plausible. And if you did feel that way, I don't think it was well founded about it. You can say a lot about the United States, but intolerance is not one of them. Particularly when we give out more visas a year to people from all around the world. We give out like maybe almost 800,000 visas, maybe for people to come from different parts of the world to become citizens here. And then I think we give out like 10 million or so visas for people to come and visit for work, for tourism, for whatever purposes. Look at the college campuses. Just look at all over the place. There are multitudes there's a huge variety of people from all religions that are here working, contributing. And after 9/11 particularly, we went out of our way to ensure that no Muslim would feel uh, fearful or threatened or in any capacity. We went so far that we had police not raid the mosques, but protect the mosques in case anybody had any bright ideas to try and hurt anybody for religious service. And we did that throughout the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and all throughout the period. So, Zohran Mamdani, I don't buy these tears and this sort of reaction that he had from a very stupid conversation that was done by former Governor Cuomo, who I think has run a very bad campaign. I don't think he's run a very good campaign, and the Sid Rosenberg show. So that's what I wanted to say. I think it's very important that we remember what it was like, and remember how this country has evolved over the last 30 years, 40 years, really, by those who were there, myself and others. Mamdani wasn't even born yet when some serious changes began to take place in this country. And he was very little. He was a kid, really, when this was going on. So it's important for people like you and me and others who are older to step up and remind people what it was really like back in those days, back then, and what happened. And we have a lot to be proud of in this country, particularly how we have embraced people from all around the world. I never apologize for this. We've always embraced people from many walks of life and in all capacities. And this is something I think we need to be proud of. And Curtis Lee will step up and speak up about this. Remind Mr. Mamdani and Mr. Cuomo and everybody else that New York is a very tolerant, welcoming city, I should say, of all people from all races and backgrounds. And that this idea that a Muslim can't run the city properly if there was a terrorist attack is wrong. And this idea that somehow or another people were scared, fearful of taking the subway wearing a hijab is wrong. And that's something that we need to speak up about. Anyway, that's my point of view today. An incredible election, folks. I hope to have more videos coming your way. And so please comment. I appreciate your comments. And like this video and please subscribe. Until then, thank you very much. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon.